Logic and UI. In this chapter, we will learn about the canvas, UI components, and how to interact with the UI. Let's start with the canvas. The canvas is a special component in Unity used to render all UI elements in a scene. It acts as a container for all UI components such as buttons, text, images, and more. The canvas ensures that UI elements are drawn and interact with the user interface correctly. To add a canvas to your scene, go to the Hierarchy panel. Right-click, select UI, then choose Canvas. You will see a Canvas game object appear in the Hierarchy panel, and the Canvas component will be added to the Inspector panel. The canvas has a few important properties. Render mode determines how the canvas is rendered. In Screen Space Overlay, the canvas is rendered directly on the screen. In Screen Space Camera, the canvas is rendered relative to the camera. In World Space Rendering, the canvas is rendered in the 3D world space. Another property is the Canvas Scaler. This component helps with the scaling of the UI. It ensures that UI elements look good on different screen sizes and resolutions. It is suggested to select Scale with Screen Size so that all UI will scale with the screen. Now that we have our canvas, let's move on to UI components. UI components are the building blocks of the user interface. Unity provides several UI components such as text, button, image, slider, and more. Let's explore some of these components. To add a text component, right-click on the canvas in the Hierarchy panel, select UI, then choose Legacy and Text. A text game object will be created as a child of the canvas. We can modify its properties in the Inspector panel, such as the text, font, size, color, and alignment. To add a button component, right-click on the canvas, select UI, Legacy, and then choose Button. The button component is a child text component by default. You can customize the button's appearance and behavior in the Inspector panel again. We will get deeper in this when building the rest of our game. To add the image component, right-click on the canvas, select UI, and then choose Image. You can set the source image, color, and other properties in the Inspector panel. Let's use the All Unity icon to see how setting image works. We will select the image object, then drag our icon to the image attribute. As you can see, there is an image in our UI. These are just a few examples of UI components available in Unity. You can experiment other components like toggle, slider, drop-down, and more. For now, we will delete our UI components except the canvas. Then, to work on placement of the UI elements, we can create a button on the canvas. When placing UI components, it is crucial to understand the rect transform component, and how it works with anchors. Rect transform is the 2D layout counterpart of the transform component, which is used for 3D objects. Every UI element has a rect transform component which allows you to position, size, and anchor the element within the canvas. Position determines where the UI element is located within its parent. Size defines the width and height of the UI element. Anchors control how the UI element behaves when the parent size changes. Anchors are a powerful tool for creating responsive UIs that adapt to different screen sizes and resolutions. By default, UI elements are anchored to their center of their parent. You can adjust the anchors by clicking on the Anchor Presets button in the Rect Transform component and selecting the desired preset. When adjusting the size of the UI element, it is better to use width and height properties of the Rect Transform rather than the Scale property. This ensures that the elements maintain their intended appearance and interact correctly with the layout system. We will do an example to see how UI placement works. Let's position our button at the bottom right corner of the screen. In the Rect Transform component of the button, click the Anchor Presets button. Hold Alt key and select the bottom right preset. This will set button's anchor, position and the pivot to the bottom right corner of the canvas. Adjust the button's position by creating some margins from the edges. By understanding Rect Transform and using anchors effectively, you can create flexible and adaptive UI layouts that look great on all screen sizes. Now that we know about the canvas and UI components, let's learn how to interact with UI. In this section, we will modify our spawner script to instantiate the cube when a button is clicked. First, let's create a button on the canvas. Since we already have a button, we can use that one. Rename the button game object to spawn button. Next, let's update our spawner script to handle button clicks. Open the spawner script. And let's modify it as follows. We will create a function and put our code from start to that function. Now we have a public method spawnCube that instantiates the cube. This method will be called when the button is clicked. After updating the script, save, then go back to Unity. And select the spawn button game object in the hierarchy panel. In the inspector panel, scroll down to the button component and find the onClick section. Click the plus button to add a new event. Drag the game object that has the spawner script attached, which is the game object named spawner for our case, into the empty field. Now click the drop-down menu next to the game object field and select the spawner script spawn cube. Save the scene. We need a little configuration for this part. Click Edit, Project Settings, and Player. In Other Settings part, find Active Input Handling either by searching or scrolling. This option's default value can vary depending on the versions. Please select both. This will help us to use onClick event we have defined previously. It might take some time. Now run the game. Click the button, and you will see a new cube instantiated each time you click the button.